My video on the Great Kingdom was pretty popular and I got a lot of great comments on it, so I thought I'd take it a step further and see about designing an adventure in the Great Kingdom. Today on Greyhawk Grognard. So basically, I want to take this video and show you how I would go about creating an adventure in the Great Kingdom in Greyhawk. A lot of people in the previous Greyhawk, the Great Kingdom video, said that they had never really played there. Everything was in the Central Flanaess or in the West, and so they would. A lot of people aren't really familiar with it. And I thought this would be a great opportunity to show you how I would do an adventure in here, and do it along with you. So from my perspective, the first thing I do is I get some source material. And the two great things we have first, I've got my books from the Gold Box, the glossography and the guide. And even though my adventure that I'm doing today is set in the common year 576, I'm also going to use Vivid the Undying. This is that the free PDF download that's floating around on the internet. It was going to be released as a book, and then they canceled it, and they released it as a free PDF online, and some of the fans have taken it and prettied it up and so forth. So um, even though it's set in the post Greyhawk Wars era, there's still a ton of great information that you can use for other eras. So I'm gonna use this too. There are also a couple of Gary Gygax and Rob Kuntz events in the Flanaess articles that were in Dragon magazine that would be relevant. But most of that material is covered in Invid the Undying, so I think I'm good not having them physically here. Now, when I'm doing a Greyhawk adventure, I want to have three elements in it. The first is I want it tied to the setting. I don't want it to just be a generic adventure that I can plop down anywhere and just change a few names and voila, it's a Greyhawk adventure. I want it to actually feel like it's integral to the setting and that it really only makes sense in Greyhawk. Right, it would take some reworking to try to put it into Forgotten Realms or Dragonlance or whatever. So I want to make it feel like Greyhawk by integrating the plot into the setting itself and what we know about the setting. The second thing is I like intrigue. I like things with a lot of machinations and lots of layers to the onion and different factions and things like that. So I want to do something where I can play around with that sort of thing too. And then the third thing is I want a dungeon. I want a dungeon crawl in there somewhere because I just like dungeon crawls, and that's like the classic thing to do, and that's what I would like to work into this adventure. So those are the three design elements that I'm going with for this exercise. Tied to the setting, lots of room for factions and political machinations and stuff, and a dungeon. That said, let's get going. So the first thing we have is I want it tied to the setting, right? And that's where the research books come in. And just so everybody knows, the Great Kingdom is this over here, right? It goes everywhere from down here all the way up to North Province, and it goes actually off of this map that's behind me. Um, the Arlene map obviously has the whole thing. So the first thing I want to do is I want to read through the entry on the Great Kingdom here in the Guide to the World of Greyhawk, which I get from the Gold Box. And I'm not going to read the whole thing to you guys because it's even though it's only three paragraphs. I mean, I don't want to. I don't. This is going to get tedious anyway. Um, and it goes on about it gives his all his various titles. It gives a lot of information on the army and so forth. Um, but the key thing here is what I'm looking at in the final paragraph. Both the North and South provinces are under the suzerainty of Erde royal houses and are ruled almost as independent states. The troubles in the Bone March have caused the Herzog of the North to fall into line, as the difficulties with the Iron League brought his southern counterpart into closer cooperation with the Malachite throne. This tells you the Sea North Province, South Province, and the Sea of Mendegia. The Sea Barons pay a token tribute to the Overking and conduct their piratical operations under letters of marque bearing the Overking seal. Okay, so that's what I want to lean into, is that kind of political wrangling between North Province, South Province, and the Overking himself. I did take a look at the glossography, mainly for the encounter areas. There's nothing particularly inspiring in the encounter table for the Great Kingdom. You've got, I'm looking, kind of looking at North Province here. Um, just strikes me because it's mentioned in there. And there's a recent conflict with the humanoids taking over the Bone March and so forth. Um, there's not a lot in here. It does say that orc soldiery is used in the Great Kingdom, Medegia, and South Province, but interestingly, not North Province, because and that would make sense because in North Province the orcs are actually the enemy because they've taken over the Bone March and are raiding in. So that is helpful right there. The Bone March itself, um, we get just lots of what you'd expect. Bugbears, giants, gnolls, goblins, varts, hobgoblins, kobolds, uh, men, no tribesmen, no hillmen. They're in the Pole March, but not here. Different humanoids and humanoid types. Uh, Interestingly, though, no orcs are listed as random encounters in the Bone March itself. I wonder why. I never noticed that before, but it seems a little odd because we do know that there are orcs all over the Bone March. We know that from the Dragon Magazine articles, and we know it from the article about the Bone March here. So that might be something to work into things, trolls and varts and so forth. Um, so that said, um, I'm already forming an idea in my head because we have here um, North Province is right behind the microphone here. Bone March is here. We got the Blemu Hills here. Uh, here, and we know that the Kingdom of Nyrond is kind of pushing in there from the Dragon magazine articles and the history that's given in the Undying because they have a big, huge history there. And again, I'm not going to read the whole thing because it's big and huge. But I think we can start working with things because we know we have several factions of orcs that rule over the Bone March. We have the several tribes. We've got the Herzog of the North is trying to win back the Bone March, and we've got the Kingdom of Nairon trying to make inroads in as well. We've also got the gnomes here in the Flinty Hills. We know from the Gord the Rogue novel, the first one, Saga of Old City, that uh, a, a Nyrandese noble is setting himself up as the Count of the Blemu Hills. So we've got a lot of stuff going on around there. And I like that. That's exactly what I'm looking for. We got different factions. We got the Count who wants to kind of be independent, and he's trying to marry his daughter off to the Baron of Ratic, which is on the other side of the Bone March. We've got North Province trying to get back the Bone March in order to get back in the graces of the Overking. We've got Nyrond going in there. So there's a lot of stuff going on. Plus, within the Bone March itself, we've got different orc tribes that are rivals to each other, and they're rivals, and the orcs are collectively rivals with the other humanoids and so forth. So there's a lot going on there. Now, there's other things we could focus on if I wanted to. We could do something down here in the Grand View Forest because we know that there are elves and woodsmen that are fighting against both the forces of the Overking and the Sea of Medegia, the clerical state there. We've got the Adri Forest here, which has more woodsmen and so forth. But I'm kind of, so, and in fact, one of the commenters in my previous Great Kingdom video said he was doing a kind of a Robin Hood-esque campaign down in the Adri Forest, which normally that would have I would have gone for that, but since he already mentioned it, I wanted to steer clear of that. So what we've got here is I'm thinking of something in the Great Kingdom, probably in and around the North Province, around East Fair, which is the capital of the North Province, but it's also within striking distance of the Bone March, and because it's the capital, there's going to be a lot of political intrigue. There's going to be nobles. There's going to be emissaries from the Overking and so forth. So I think if we base the campaign in the city of East Fair, I think we're off to a good start. So there we have our ample opportunities for tying everything into the setting, right? Because we've got these factions that are predefined. We have these conflicts that are emerging from the setting itself, and we can lean into those. And my thinking is that the PCs are either going to be free agents. Meaning they can kind of sell their services to whoever the highest bidder is. That could be a dangerous game for them. If one of the other factions gets wind of it and they try to take him out, so that could work very well. Or they could be agents of, say, the King of Nyrond, who are in their incognito and are there to kind of look after Nyrond's interests as a whole. Or they could be both, right? They could actually be working for the King of Nyrond, and they could be posing as freelancers who are selling themselves to the highest bidder. I think that's where we're going to go with this. Is that the PCs are working for the King of Nyrond, and in that respect, they are his secret agents, and they are posing as mercenaries who are going to work for the highest bidder in this chaotic political situation. So I think right there we've got our first thing is done. We have tied the adventure, we've tied the setting to the setting itself, and I'm very very happy with the way that kind of all clicked. So that's one down. Hi everybody. Please help me keep Greyhawk alive by liking this video and subscribing. It really does help. You can also become a member of the channel or support me on Patreon and get early access to my videos, exclusive content, free or at-cost copies of my Greyheim Adventures modules, and more. Thanks, and now back to the show. Now, the second thing was I wanted a lot of political intrigue, and as you could tell from the uh, the the setup that we got already, it's built into this part of the setting, right? We have two competing orc tribes, if we want. We've got the Kingdom of Nyrond, we got the Count of Blemu, we've got the Herzog of the North, we have the Overking. We might even have the Baron of Ratic involved here. So we've got at least 5 or 6 factions that are all going to be at odds with each other. Sometimes they're going to be working together. Sometimes they're going to be working against each other. So we've got our second milestone as well. We've got the factions involved because they emerge from the setting. So that all works out really well. Now the question at this point is, how does it all fit together? Why are the PCs there? And that is where I think we're going to get to number 3. Now, the third thing I said is I wanted there to be a dungeon. And that doesn't mean that the whole thing has to be a dungeon, right? There could be urban elements to it, urban adventure, then there's a wilderness adventure, and that gets you to the dungeon and so forth. There's a lot of possibilities in there, and I want to make sure that there's plenty of room to adventure. So I'm thinking that this particular adventure is going to start off in East Fair, like we said. The PCs are the secret agents working for the King of Nyrond. They are selling themselves to the highest bidder, and will say, for the sake of this adventure, that they have now been hired by the Herzog of North Province, indirectly, of course, through a couple of intermediaries, to go into the Bone March on a secret mission for him. And their mission is to try to find this dungeon complex that has something very valuable in it. That would make it easier for the Herzog of the North to reconquer Bone March, at least part of it. So that kind of leads us into the dungeon idea. So we don't want to make it too easy for them, right? So there's going to be other factions who are also going to be looking for this location. There's the 2 orc tribes are both going to be sending their own rival teams, and as the PCs are on top of things, they're going to be able to say, they're going to be able to tell which, if they encounter orcs, because we noticed that there are no random orc encounters here. The orc encounters are all going to be planned encounters as part of the adventure. So we're going to have this encounter might be with the one tribe of orcs, and this encounter is going to be with the other tribe, and it could very well be we should give the PCs an opportunity to kind of set these two different orc factions against each other and kind of knock them out of the competition. Now we could also have a a faction from, say, the Count of Blemu, who doesn't know that the PCs are working for the King of Nyrond. And maybe he's got a set of adventurers of his own, mercenaries of his own, who are also looking for this location. So we could have three different forces, well, four different forces, all looking for this thing together. And the PCs are going to have to dance between them and be make sure that they're the first ones there. Or if they choose, they could also just try to follow one of the other group and wait for them to find it and then take them out and explore the dungeon themselves. So here we have the element of they have to prep the mission in East Fair, and they're going to be um, facing off against uh, uh, different people and villains and so forth as they get ready for it. Maybe they have to track down a map or something in the town, and the Count of Blemu's men are also looking for the map. Maybe so you can have that kind of tension before the dungeon, the wilderness element first. So in the city we have the PCs are trying to track down this map. And they're also working against the forces of Count Blemu, who don't know that they're working for the king. So we have that going on in the uh, in the town first, and maybe the Thieves Guild is also interested in this just for their own purposes. They're not interested in reconquering the Bone March, but because everybody's interested in the map, they're interested in the map now too. So I think that's really cool. We've got this kind of race going on for the map. Then we've got the actual wilderness into the Bone March, and then we've got the race to the dungeon itself. Now, as for what's in this dungeon, it doesn't have to be, it can be any kind of MacGuffin that you want. It could be a magic item. It could be maybe an important person is trapped in there. Maybe he's a prisoner inside this dungeon, and maybe he's got some important information on the relative strengths or intentions of the humanoid tribes or something like that. I'm kind of I would kind of want to go away from the standard thing of it's a magic item, and that's a little tight. But if you make it, oh, it's a person who has information that the Herzog of the North is looking for, that makes it a lot more interesting to my mind, because then he becomes not only a goal but also a liability, because you got to get him back to East Fair live, and that might be a challenge in and of itself. Maybe he doesn't want to go back. Maybe he is here we go. He is a scout for the Baron of Radek, and he wants to escape back to Radek, but the PCs thing like they're the agents of the Herzog of the North want to get him back to East Fair. Maybe, but because they're working for the King of Nairon, they want to get that information out of him first, and try to get that information to the King of Nairon, and then deny it to the Herzog of the North. So I think that's our thing right there. So the dungeon itself can be just about anything. The standard trope, of course, is it's a tomb, a crypt, a wizard's tower, or something like that. I love those kinds of things, so we can definitely do that. But how is he trapped in there? How did he get trapped in there? Maybe he was trying to flee from some monster and worked and got himself into a trapped room or something, and one of his companions escaped to tell the tale, but he himself was trapped back there. And that's the companion is how the map got, because the companion who was with him, the guy, the scout from Radek who has the information, he made the map on how to get there, get to East Fair, hoping to get it back to Radek somehow, because he couldn't just go through the Bone March himself. Um, and then um, and then he lost it. Maybe he was killed in the town. So okay, there we go. I think we've got it all worked out, and let's see how it flows. So here we go. This is what I've come up with through this exercise of looking through the sources and trying to tie things together, trying to make sure there's lots of factions involved, and then ending the thing in a dungeon. So the PCs are secret agents working for the King of Nairon, the King of Nairon. They are in East Fair, which is over here, which is the capital of North Province, and they are posing as a group of mercenaries who have been hired by the Herzog of North Province to find this missing Ratic spy slash scout who disappeared in the Bone March and has valuable information on the disposition of the humanoid tribes in there. They are in the first thing they have to do is find a map that shows the location of this scout. They're of course under a time constraint because you can't live indefinitely in a dungeon. So they have to follow up some leads. They're being opposed by the agents of the Count of Blemu, who don't know that they're working for the king of Myrond, and also the Thieves Guild in East Fair, who is looking for the map to be able to sell it to the highest bidder. So they once they secure the map, they go into a wilderness adventure inside the Bone March. Um, there'll be various, different encounters with humanoid tribes and so forth. They're going to be able to encounter the other two orc factions who are also looking for this scout because they know what he knows and they want to stop him before he tells anybody. And they might be able to play those two off against each other and then find the guy. So once they actually reach the location of this dungeon, they use the map to find it, and then they go through some ordinary dungeony kind of perils, find the guy, but he doesn't want to go back with them because he wants to go to Radek. So they have to somehow either get the information from him or convince him that they're actually working for the King of Nyrond. Unfortunately, they don't have any proof because that would ruin the whole idea of them being spies. So they have to work on that detail as well. So I think we've come up with a very solid adventure idea here. It is tied to the setting. It's very tightly knit to the different factions that you'll find in this particular area of the world of Greyhawk. And it sounds like it would be a lot of fun to do at a con or something like that. So anyway, I hope you've enjoyed this exercise in writing a Great Kingdom adventure. I know a lot of people say that they've never played there. Maybe this will inspire you to do a little digging, find a spot in the Great Kingdom that would be ripe for a nice adventure, and get your PCs over there and do something in there. There's plenty of stuff to do. I mean, you could do a whole thing in the South Province because there's all the stuff going on with the Iron League and skirmishes and so forth. You've got the Sea of Medegia, where the Spideza, who's the leader there, wants to kind of break away and be more independent, and the Overking is trying to bring it back into line. So it's all kinds of things you could do in the Great Kingdom. All sorts of you could do a straight noble family against noble family feud. You can do all kinds of things in here. So I hope this simple exercise has inspired you to take a look at the Great Kingdom as a place to do some adventuring. I'd love to hear your thoughts on what I came up with. I'd love to hear your thoughts on how you come up with stuff like this yourself. And hope you're all having a wonderful, wonderful day. And I will talk to you all later.
Thanks for watching today's video. Please remember to hit the like button and subscribe to the channel. Below you'll find links to my Patreon, which helps make these videos possible. You'll also find the web store where you can buy my books, and my blog where you'll find all sorts of free downloads and other articles. Thanks, and have a great day.